evening. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Give us this day our daily bread. Both these talk to us about God's love for us. Probably the most important thing for any of us is our human needs. And there is no more basic human need than eating. It should be spaghetti rather than bread, but you need bread also, whether it's gluten-free or not. And so he taught us that we can ask God our Father for that which we need, our human needs. One of the things that sometimes happens among people is that somehow we think it's okay for us to pray for our friends and their needs, but it's not okay for us to pray for our own needs. That's absurd. You are as important to God as anyone else in the world. You are no more important to God than anyone else in the world. But you are important. And so this reminds us that you and I, when we have needs, we need to go to God and ask Him for it. Now, you understand after Father Murphy's sermon last night that a Rolex is not as important as a Timex. You know, it's human needs, not human wants. You know, I would like a couple $1 million, but I don't really need it. And one of the things you will learn as you get older, today in his class, Father Lutz talked about the fact that as we get older, we come to realize that God will come through. It's only taken me almost 69 years to realize that, but it's true. Bishop says that God always comes through, usually at at 11:59 in the evening, but he always comes through. I came here 35 years ago for a retreat, and my spiritual director, whose photograph is on the wall back there, he's dead now, liked sports. I don't know if he played the horses, but he used to say, God has a track record. A track record is published. It tells you how well horses do. And then you decide whether or not you will bet on them. Well, what he was saying to me is God always comes through. Give us this day, our daily bread. That is kind of for our human needs, not wants. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. There is a very subtle line there. And that line is reminding us that we have to forgive other people because we are dependent upon the forgiveness of Christ. We really are. Now, is that saying to us, unless you forgive your neighbor, God won't forgive you? Maybe. I've told you over the years that it's kind of like we will let him be God for 5 seconds, okay? Hi, God. Shake my hand, please. Can I receive his forgiveness if I'm like this? If I'm all angry because 47 years ago you thought nasty things about me? Yeah, I can't forgive her. You ever feel that way? I can't forgive so-and-so for what they did to me. The truth is, all of us experience that. In life, you will be hurt by others, either intentionally or unintentionally. It hurts maybe a little bit more if you know the blighters actually did it to hurt you. But it still hurts. So how do we forgive them? You know by now that I'm kind of a practical man. And if I write about something, it's a practical issue. How do we forgive people we're having trouble forgiving? First and foremost, we look at ourselves. And we ask ourselves, what am I getting out of this? What am I getting out of it? People always look at me like I'm a nut when I say that. When someone's really upset, I say, what are you getting out of this that you want to keep it like this and won't let go of it? And they say to me, as I say to the mirror, oh, I'm not getting anything out of it. Well, we don't do anything unless we get something out of it. I run every morning at 6:30 with Father Lutz because I know I will have this magnificent body. Okay? And so you look at me and say, why does he run at 6:30 in the morning when he's an old white-haired blighter? Well, because of this body, you know? We don't do things unless we get something out of it. Even if it's negative. Years ago when I was in seminary and going through spiritual direction and therapy, I came across something called plum. You know what a plum is, right? Well, this is called plum. Poor little unfortunate me. Poor little unfortunate me. We all played that game. Poor little unfortunate me. You know, you go to school. And you don't do as well in, name a subject. Everyone does well in math. No, math, say. I remember in high school having calculus, trigonometry. As a priest, I use those every day of my life. It's kind of like algebra, you know, it's right up there. But you still need to learn it because it teaches you to think. But back to the topic. If I have a lousy teacher, and over the last few years of my life, especially the first, I occasionally had a teacher who was a blighter. And what would happen if I said, I can't learn math because of Mr. Buss in 5th grade, or 7th grade, or 10th grade, or those blighters I had in college and graduate school who tried to teach me statistics. If I kept on saying, you know, Mr. Buss, I think that was his name, was mean to me, and therefore I can't learn math. I would never learn math, would I? That would be my saying, poor little unfortunate me, Mr. Buss was a blighter, and therefore I can never learn math. You know what that would mean, other than I couldn't learn math? It would mean that I didn't have to do my homework, because I'm not going to learn it anyway. I wouldn't have to sit in his class, because I'm not going to learn anything anyway. When we play the game of plum, it gives us permission to do nothing. You are called to grow. You are called to forgive. The other thing we have to do, you're Christians. What is it we do here? I told you the other day, this is Benedictine. We have a flow to our life. You had class this morning, but before class, what did you do? You prayed. After games, you prayed. We pray. Therefore, what I would say to you is that what you have to do is pray about forgiveness. You have to ask God to teach you to pray. I think the other thing I learned when I was here 35 years ago, any of you born 35 years ago? No. Is that the priest here, because I talked about forgiveness, how difficult it was. I had a parish where not everyone was a blighter, but they were in the majority. Okay? And I had trouble forgiving them because they hurt me very badly. And he told me what you have to do is tell God you want to forgive them. Lord, I want to forgive blank. He said, now sometimes that's hard. Therefore you say, Lord, I want to forgive him. Does that make sense to you? I want to want. And sometimes you have to want. And I remember once, a few years ago, where someone hurt me very badly, and I had Mass that day. At the time, I had two spiritual directors who told me that if you schedule Mass and no one shows up, celebrate it anyway. No one was in the chapel. And so I went up during the prayers, right before confession. And I said, God, I want to forgive this blighter. I think I stood there 5 minutes. I couldn't have done that if there was a congregation. Does that make sense? They'd say, oh God, the Italian's going crazy again. Yeah. But I stood there and kept on saying, I want to want. And I was able to do it eventually. Not by my will, but by God's grace. I can tell you right now, I don't remember who that person was. Because if you forgive someone, you have to also forget it and get on with your life. And so Jesus tells us in this prayer that when we have human needs, He will give us life. Mr. G said that obviously bread is life. Forgiveness is life. If you cannot forgive, you cannot live. Because you are all bound up like this. C.S. Lewis has this image of not, who can I pick on? Father Gettings. You've been a bad boy. We're going to pick you up. And these 23 devils are going to carry you off to hell. That ain't the way it works. The way it works is you get so bound up in yourself, you just ooze into the slime of hell. Because the only thing is important is this. None of you want that. If you have trouble forgiving somebody, spend some time here and say, I want to. And see what God does for you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.